All right, now let's talk a little bit about the grid method. It's certainly not my favorite. I think it's a lot of work, but that probably depends on what you're used to. Some people might consider my method a lot of work too. So I want to be able to figure out a ratio here that's going to make it larger. So let's go ahead and figure out this on 1/2 inch increments, and then we'll make the other one on 3/4. And that should give us about a half again as big. I think that's probably going to work out just right. So let's go ahead and mark our photograph. And you want to remember that if you can, go ahead and print something out or get a copy. You wouldn't want to do this to your actual photograph. And also make sure that it's a paper, whatever you're printing it on, is a paper that it will accept pencil, because some of them are, like semi-gloss and glossy, and they just won't. So we can come down the other side and do exactly the same thing. Half-inch increments. We're going to go around all 4 sides. And now that we have these incremental marks, let's go ahead and draw our lines through. And I think just a matter of developing a habit, even though it may not make as much difference on here, I would like you to get used to dragging your pencil. We're going to go all the way across here both directions with our lines. So let me go ahead and finish that. And so here's what we're looking at. This is all divided up into squares. Now we get to see, we're going to go ahead and create the one on the bigger sheet. So 3/4 inch, we've added a 1/4 inch. That should give us half again as big of a measurement here. And that is going to determine, and ahead of time, you'd probably want to decide how much bigger I want to make it. You could go ahead and measure this head and say, okay, half again as much, that's going to make me a head about that big. And you can measure this and find out if it's 6 inches, you add another 3 inches and make it 9. You want to be able to just drag your pencil along with just enough pressure to make the line. Let's just be careful, because this is a great method if you want to use it, unless you can't get the marks off. And so it's a lot better than shoving it, because you're going to have a tendency to poke into the fibers of the paper and catch it, gouge it, score it, all that stuff. All right, we're almost done. All right, now let's go ahead and get this here, and we can go ahead and center this, and we'll use one of these center lines, so we can kind of take an idea whether we have it in the middle if you need to. There's 4 on that side, and there's more on that one, so let's go 4.5. See if we can match up one of these lines. There we go. That's pretty close. So then we're going to keep it level on here. That's going to help keep it square. So we can figure out now, let's go ahead and number these so we know what one we're talking about. Let's see, 4.5 one way and 5 the other. So let's go ahead and we'll call this 5. This isn't in the very center of the thing, but let's go ahead and say this is 5, this line right here. And then let's find the halfway. There's 12 sections here, so let's go ahead and find 6. And we'll make that one 6. And so we're going to go ahead and count now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, and that's going to be our bottom line. And so that's going to be the proportion I was talking about before, a little less at the top than at the bottom. Okay, let's go ahead and count over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's label this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then it'll come over to about half. Okay, So now we're going to pick out some major points, and we're going to pay attention to what the line is that we're trying to intersect. Number 6 goes right on through the eye. So that's at 6, just above 6, and 6. And so we have an eye here. Let's see, what can we do? We can start, and I think if I was going to use this, I would use part of my method besides that. And we're coming about halfway. And this gives you the chance to have an opportunity to see the size relationship within the square and the angles and all that. How does it intersect? And let's go ahead and try to get a couple of these things in here. But I can go ahead and use my divider. That's what I would do. I would use my divider in conjunction with this, because it helps me go ahead and measure over into the square. And then we can go ahead and do any corrections we want to also, and obviously we're going to want to do that. I don't get a chance to turn my picture around, I don't think, quite as much, because I want to get a feel for, and I guess I can get feel for the angles, but I'm afraid I'm going to lose track of something else. That's probably about halfway, is probably about the top of that, so that means that this is probably going to be down a little further. Let's go ahead and get this fold in here. So I've already got something thicker than I should. I think that I want to get a feel for some of the things that are a little easier to follow. But I can look right down here like I've talked before and get the right angle on this. And we can kind of block it out so that it isn't necessarily going to be exactly what we're looking for in the finished product, but we can get some pretty good indicators here. This is out here. This comes right down and sits on the line. It just sits right on the line there, so that's a good indicator too. And this one is about halfway on line 7, you know, a little less than half. And this is the nostril here, and you can see the angle by, you know, making sure this is in the same orientation, same thing I've talked about with my method. And this is and then we're going down one more square, and out of the top of that we have over here. And I think that's probably what I would do, is get it, you know, fairly close, and I'm not going to be able to do it perfect probably until I have a chance to see the overall preliminary drawing I've made, and then I can start refining it. But you see how I'm just copying how that weaves in and out or touches the lines of that box. And I still think this is a great advantage to being to have this in the same orientation. Looks like the mouth is lined up pretty close to that. So we want to go, and I can come around here, and then how far down does it go? Oh, about a third of the way down this line. And obviously we're going to be able to fine-tune those things later, unless I take the time right now to use my divider and find out where exactly on the line it is. Okay, here's the corner of the lip over here. How does it intersect? What's the angle? So I would just keep turning my picture around like so. And then, oh, this looks like divided up into thirds. From this line down to the top of the bottom lip, down to the bottom of the lip, and down there, it's about thirds. So maybe this is a little bit too much. And this is where the other one is. But even though those first lines look kind of scary, if you're patient, you'll be able to gradually see it develop. And the more you have on here, the more you can go ahead and size one thing up next to another and come up with your pretty accurate drawing. And if nothing else, it gives you a size to start working with instead of just starting freehand out in the middle of nowhere and causing yourself even more adjustments. Let's see here. And some of the same principles apply. It might be easy to get so absorbed in making sure you have this or that lined up that you forget about. You have some things that you can fall back on too. As soon as you have the placement, you can make sure that this is perfectly round, just like I've suggested with drawing eyes that are looking at you. And you can still make some adjustments. I think this was too far and that needed to go over. So, okay. Let's take a look at this shadow. Here we have the corner of the mouth. This corner comes clear out here, it looks like. So now I can go ahead and copy this angle, coming back up towards the nose and the shadow. I'm marking out even some of these highlighted areas. Okay, so on line 8, we have the side of the face starting over here. See, it's about halfway down. And we can look at the angle, and we can see what the angle of the face is there, the side of the face. So, and this is that dark, dished out place in the ear. keep looking at where, if this is coming down here, where would it intersect? It's just about halfway. Great way to do quite an accurate drawing. You can do something without any fancy equipment, and you don't have to have a huge amount of skill, and it gradually gets you into drawing so that you can get better and better and better at seeing and duplicating this stuff. You just start learning how to look for certain things that make this work, the angles and the curves and all those things, and you'll just get better and better and better at drawing. And you can actually use less and less lines if you wanted to. You could use maybe just a bearing line down the center, and this way, and the one that's closest to the bottom, and if you want the challenge, you could start just giving yourself your challenge. So this goes almost up there. And we can verify, like I said, a number of things, measurements and curves and all kinds of stuff once we get this stuff on here. A little flat part of the inner edge of that hair. Okay, let's see about you see this thing developing? I think we've got something going here. And this comes up just barely intersecting that corner, and then it comes back this way, so you can get a good idea of where to turn back and how to form a lot of stuff this way. Where is that? A little bit that way. That's that reflection. And the big thing is to get started. You notice even I had to just go up and go for it. And so I have the option now of going in and putting any contour lines, edges to contours and values, so that I know where some of the other forms are on here. Let's see. And this one here is just inside. I think that first eye has got some adjustments I've got to make on it if I was going to go ahead and go all the way through with this. I'm not going to go and finish this entirely, but I want to get enough on here that you can see the possibilities. And you can start seeing her peeking through there. Verify the angles by turning your picture so you can sight right up there. No. Here's a little corner of the chin. So that's a little above half. I think this chin got a little long. I'm going to shorten that up. And it's just what you can do. You can keep modifying and modifying until you finally have it the way you want. I think this is a little low, so let's go up there and meet the chin. And everything is a process. You draw freehand, you're going to want to continue modifying. And again, that's the reason why I ended up by, one of the main reasons, besides trying to be in control and allowing myself the opportunity to remove things and change things. This is why you want to. I still like to get this down to just a line representing the edges of everything. So I've got a lot of erasing to do, and I'm hoping that I don't change the texture too much of the paper. Let's see here. Coming up out of third, I can. Great advantage, keeping this picture in the same orientation as my drawing. Wonderful advantage. It's one of the rules, again, that goes across the board as far as I'm concerned. You never want to miss that opportunity to maintain your orientation and bearings by doing that. Here's this angle, and she has these cute little, these flat areas in the ear on both sides. It just goes up and turns a corner, goes that way and turns a corner and comes down. About halfway up, we have that. Let's go ahead and really try to pay attention at the angle. Some things that if you just look at it very quickly, you'll think are straight up and down, and yet they aren't. And that slight little tilt is just exactly, is another reason I want you to really pay attention to your orientation on here, because an attitude can be established or taken away so easily if you're not careful. Okay, let's go this way. And let's go that way. And see, it looks like this one's quite a bit bigger. I have that one bigger. And so you could go ahead and kind of verify again if things are on track. And I have something a little larger over here on this side. We'll have to figure out what it is. Oh, I see what it is already. This is too big this way, because my eye comes over that way too far. But if I don't score my paper and I don't put it on too dark, I can get it off. I think that's over. I think I still have this over too far. Let's see here. Yeah, I think this goes over even further, because this corner is not even over halfway, just almost halfway. So we got to cut down on this. We got to cut down on that. I think. Now that's without verifying it against some other anchor pivot points. And I've got to get something on here before I can really accurately check some of those things out. Let's get this up there too. That's an integral part of this. Let's decide where the hairlines are going to go. Let's come over here and do this for this side of the head. And we can travel right up around. Again, the hair is very, very forgiving. But we want to get the head, the right shape. We don't want to have it getting unnecessarily big. Let's see up at 7 and 4. So 4 and 7. Yeah, we have this little section of hair coming in here. Let's come over here and do this a little less than half. It's just not splitting the square, totally, so it's a little over that way. A little bit of an angle. Here we're going to come up with the hair that comes across there and her temple. Oh, we need another part of the eyebrow over here too. Yeah, if it wasn't for all the squares and all that I have to go through now to remove all this is a pretty nice way of getting something on the paper for a lot of you. Let's go ahead and intersect that line. This is barely doing that one. Let's see. This is just to give us an indication of how long our hair is. Oh, let's see here. Okay, let's get this highlight in here. Let's see. Oh boy, it just almost intersects this. That's her little apex on that cheek. And oh, this one over here, boy, the lines just split it. Let's get underneath her eye. Even though I suggest you get this right down to a fine line, erase every unnecessary part. I just want to show you what's going to happen if we go ahead and get some color in the eyes. Just changes it. There's nothing more odd than having these white iris eyes looking back at you. Totally unnatural. That's why they use it in movies, to show somebody that's possessed or supernatural or something. They often put white eyes. And then we have, an indication. Don't have to get carried away. Every time you're doing eyelashes, I suggest that you just refrain from throwing those things in there and say, well, it's got to have eyelashes. Don't get too carried away, because less is more in this case. And you can always intensify them, put more on later. Let's go ahead and do a couple things to give this dimension. I want to take my lines off first, but I'm just showing you how it could start taking a dimensional shape just by shading down, having clean edges. Same thing in the nose. Top is clean, and then we shade down. And look at how fast this whole thing starts changing its complexion. Clean at the top, shades down. And there, well, let me do just a tiny bit over here. Let's go ahead and do this, and we'll maybe need to do this. And we know the angle here. Pay attention to the angles. Pay attention to the angles. And here's her little collar. And that comes down there. And then we have her button. Let's continue this over here just so you can kind of get a feel. One thing leads to another. You can just keep playing off of one thing and use it as a comparison for the next, and it just goes on and on and on. And you can start practicing doing exactly the same principle enough that you can actually start doing some fairly good freehands. Some of you will do terrific freehands. You'll just have an eye for it. But I think that term, an eye for it, in this case, would just mean you've done it enough that you have a pretty good idea what to pay attention to and what you're looking for, and now you just learn how to make it effective. There's very few people who are just going to come whizzing in here and do it perfect the first time. So there. Now, I hope that's enough. That is the grid method. And again, to me, it isn't my favorite because I'm not used to it, and I don't like to do something I have to take off, and I want to make sure I can get all those off. So now I've got to work hard, and I know I made these darker so that you could see them, but I've got to work real hard to make sure that all those are gone and they are in the middle of parts of my drawing. So that's why. So I hope you have enough of a demonstration here that you can utilize it if you'd like. And that's the grid method.